See truth and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. Thom Hartmann here with you. Well, a lot of interesting stuff going on right now. Donald Trump visiting Puerto Rico, hopefully putting that story back in the news. I mean, people are dying. This is a disaster, and it's also an extraordinary opportunity for us to take a Caribbean island nation and turn it into a 21st century energy showcase. Although that would kind of go against what the Trump administration is doing right now. They're trying to actually jack up the prices that we have to pay for electricity if it's made with nuclear power or with coal to subsidize the nuclear and coal industries. But that's, kind of a whole other thing. But here we are, the Washington Post, this is the New York Times today, has an editorial. It's by the editorial board. The headline pretty much says the whole thing. 477 days, 521 mass shootings, zero action from Congress. Going back, basically going back a year. June of last year, 31 mass shootings. July, 49 mass shootings. August, 42 mass shootings. This is amazing. September, 32 mass shootings. October, 31 mass shootings. November, 36 mass shootings. December, 27 mass shootings. This is in the United States, of course. Europe, no. January, 31 mass shootings. February, 25 mass shootings. March, 22 mass shootings. April, 39 mass shootings in the United States in the month of April. There's not even 30 days in April. May, 23 mass shootings. 35 in June. 36 in July. 33 in August. 27 in September, and here we are in October, where 2 mass shootings, and it's the third. Brilliant. Jim Turr sends me a note. He said, things more heavily regulated than buying a gun in the United States. Now, it's a little funnier when you read it because it's got the F word in every single sentence, but I'm going to delete that and I'll just say it without it. Having a bake sale is more heavily regulated than buying a gun in the United States. Building a shed in your own backyard, pumping gas, getting a vasectomy, owning a car, driving someone else's car, riding in a car, disposing of batteries, cutting hair for a living, having a controlled bonfire on your own property, owning a dog, walking a dog, selling a mattress, watching a DVD, holding any sort of public performance, importing foreign cheese, changing your last name to that of your spouse's. All of these things more difficult than buying a gun in the United States. Right? Buying fireworks, riding a bicycle, having a swimming pool, Xeroxing and distributing copyrighted material, transporting a bottle of opened wine home from a restaurant, using a skateboard, buying unpasteurized milk, having sex and recycling, all more heavily regulated or whatever, the word is than guns. Roy Zimmerman has a song out, and I think this is an older song of his. You'll notice yesterday at 2:45, Congress paused for 1 minute for a moment of silence so that we could send our thoughts and prayers. This is kind of the NRA's official, whenever there's a bunch of people killed with guns, the NRA goes silent, and then, if there's anything to be said, it's our thoughts and prayers are with the family. Here's what Roy Zimmerman has to say about that. Roy is a musician, by the way, if you haven't figured that out. Plays pretty good music, too.
Another day, another crazy loner with a gun. Another mad jihadi's done what cannot be undone. The congressperson semi-automatically declares, to the victims of this tragedy, we send our thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, that's all any Republican is going to send.
If guns are regulated, well, we're on a slippery slope to common sense and public safety, reason, peace, and hope. But rest assured, we've got the issue square in our crosshairs. And to the victims of this tragedy, we send our thoughts and prayers.
Okay, but That's Roy Zimmerman. We're going to be talking with both Julio Rivera and Dennis Kucinich as we go through the program here. Although Dennis wants to talk about nuclear weapons. That should be an interesting one. Over at The Onion, Brian Stelter of CNN tweeted this out. They have this story that they just publish over and over and over again with always the same headline. Quote, no way to prevent this, end quote, says only nation where this regularly happens. And, of course, that was the headline in The Onion yesterday, October 2nd, 2017. It was the headline, no way to prevent this, says only nation where this regularly happens, December 3rd, 2015, October 1st, 2015, June 17th, 2015. And it just goes on and on and on. The Onion keeps making these pronouncements, keeps pointing this out. Now, there's also, not just the NRA having blood on their hands and all that, but there's also a difference in the way that our media has been responding to this and in the way, of course, that Donald Trump has been responding to this. And I think they're both worth pointing out. The first is Trump's reaction, how Trump's reaction has been different. And it has to do, as far as I can tell, and I'll lay the evidence out and you can make up your own mind, but it has to do, I believe, with the race and religion of the shooter. This guy is a white guy who is presumably Christian or something close to it, culturally, birthwise, whatever. And so what Donald Trump tweets out is my warmest condolences and sympathies, prayers and thoughts, right? Thoughts and prayers. My warmest condolences and sympathies to the victims and families of the terrible Las Vegas shooting. God bless you. That's what Trump tweeted out in response to a white killer. Now, what happens when the killer is a Muslim or a brown person? There's a fascinating article about, summarizing all this by E.A. Crunden over at thinkprogress.org. In 2015, Trump responded swiftly to attacks in Paris, France, and San Bernardino, California, pointing to the religion, the faith of the perpetrators as the rationale for their violence. This year in August, after a van hit pedestrians in Barcelona, Spain, killed 14 people, the president initially took to Twitter to offer his condolences and support. A short time later, he tweeted again, this time reviving an Islamophobic myth about General John Joseph Pershing. Remember Trump tweeted, hey, you want to know how to deal with these people? Go back and look at what Pershing did. He dipped the bullets into pig's blood, and it scared Muslims. And it's all a lie. I mean, Trump is quoting something that never happened. But, what was weird, what they note over at Think Progress is that even before they knew the identity or the motive of the killer, Trump was tweeting this. He writes, after a series of attacks occurred in Germany and Turkey last December, Trump swiftly blamed, quote, Islamic terrorists for the violence without any confirmation. In September, after an explosion hit the London Underground, Trump quickly blamed the incident on a, quote, loser terrorist, plus, taking the opportunity to brag on his travel ban. Another attack in London by a loser terrorist, Trump wrote on Twitter. These are sick and demented people who were in the sights of Scotland Yard. He's not calling this shooter sick and demented. Have you noticed? I mean, maybe he will. We'll see. E.A. Crunden notes also in this piece for Think Progress. Last February, Trump failed to offer comment after 6 men were killed at a mosque in Quebec City, Canada. In May, the president took several days to respond after a white supremacist targeting 2 young women on a train in Portland, Oregon, killed 2 men who tried to intervene. He similarly has said little about a spike in hate crimes targeting South Asians in the United States, many of whom are read as Muslim, regardless of their faith. And after a Minnesota mosque was bombed in August, Trump also remained silent, instead firing off a number of tweets about other topics. So when the shooter is white, the rules apparently, at least for Trump, and I would say for the media as well, and we've had this conversation many times on this program, the rules are different, shall we say. The rules seem to be quite different. The rest of the world, meanwhile, is looking at us going, what the hell? I mean, seriously. How can you people call yourself free when you're scared to go outside? How can you call yourself free when you can't walk into a government building without going through a magnetometer? You got so many guns running around loose in America. How can you call yourself free with all these weapons, all these instruments of intimidation and death, facing you all over the place? Why do you still let people buy weapons of war? New Zealand Herald, roll of shame, the worst U.S. shootings. The Independent, the United Kingdom. Las Vegas gun laws. How easy is it to buy in Nevada? Very. Sky News correspondent, this is from Dee Parvis's piece over in Think Progress. Sky News correspondent Greg Millham quoted witnesses who said the scene was a war zone. And the British broadcaster asked anti-gun violence campaigner Gary Paddock, former member of the NRA, how Paddock could possibly have so many weapons of war. The Indian Express headline, while U.S. President tweeted about his warmest condolences to families of the victims, people asked for a stronger law. The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, quote, one suspects that if the shooter's name had been Mohammed, it would have been a different tune. And, quote, just know that in Nevada, the next gambler walking into a casino where you're enjoying a drink might be angry or crazy or carrying a machine gun legally. And with regard to Trump's comments on this, they said, quote, the NRA could have written his address. Al Jazeera is covering it as a straight news story, but they also published a piece about, Trump saying, oh, this was an act of pure evil, but not terrorism. Really? Or is it? I mean, we don't know this guy's motive yet. And I suppose for something to be called terrorism, you have to have an element of trying to change people's behavior. But how can we call our society free if we're not safe to go outside without getting shot at?